tonight on First at 9 this Thursday, the 24th of April 2025. Here we go. Postal voting for 2025 local government elections kicks off. Over 600,000 eligible voters line up to cast their ballots. Hold up. Officials urge devotees to avoid travelling to Kandy to worship the sacred tooth relic as the city struggles to handle overwhelming crowds. Tidings. The fourth staff level agreement under the IMF bailout plan expected next week, says the Deputy Minister of Economic Development. Promising news on US tariffs also on the horizon.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lanka Kiren Perata. ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
කට්ට පරිස්සම් කරගත්තොත් අපි පරිස්සම්.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Disanaka joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, in your top story tonight, postal voting for this year's local government elections began today with more than 648,000 eligible voters expected to cast their ballots by mail. The process will take place over 4 designated days, April 24th, 25th, 28th and 29th, enabling eligible individuals from various government institutions to take part in this exercise of democracy. Postal voting for the 2025 local government elections scheduled to be held on the 6th of May officially began today. A total of 648,495 public servants are eligible to cast ballots at this year's elections. Postal voting commenced this morning in several districts across the island. Meanwhile, police officers deployed for the exposition of the sacred tooth relic in Kandy were given the opportunity to mark their postal ballots at the Kandy Girls High School. Postal voters will again be permitted to cast their votes at the offices of the certifying officers tomorrow and on the 28th and 29th of April. Meanwhile, the Minister of Education announced that all schools across the island will be closed on May 5th and May 6th in view of the 2025 local government elections. In an official statement, the ministry noted that schools designated as centres for the issuing and receiving of ballot boxes and other election-related materials by senior returning officers will be granted holidays during the specified period. Despite continuous criticism from the opposition, President Andra Disanaka asserts that the government will continue its work to fulfill its promises to the public. Addressing an NPP public rally in Puttalam today, the president went on to say that the opposition will never again receive the opportunity to form a government.
Another NPP public rally themed "Outcome is clear, victory is ours" in view of the upcoming local government election was held in Puttalam today under the patronage of President Andra Disanaka. Previously, it was Muslim political parties that held power in the Puttalam Municipal Council, but now it is the National People's Power. In every area, Sinhalese communities voted for Muslim politicians and Muslim communities voted for Sinhalese politicians. The country, which was divided before, has united. The public expected a governing free of racism. We will fulfill the expectations of the people who voted for us. The public adores it, yet certain people are still complaining. Did they vote for us? No. They will keep complaining and we will continue to work. The citizens are on our side. If you watch the primetime news bulletins, you can see how many people complain. They never expected something like this, and because of the way we work, they will never get an opportunity to form a government in their lifetime. They will only have one opportunity to do so if they promise to be better than us. However, they are worse than us and are lagging behind us in many ways. If they are at least a little bit better than us, they can win.
ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Sajjit Premadasa claims that both the government and the president have no solutions to curb organised crime wreaking havoc in the country today. Addressing an SJP public meeting in Matugama, the opposition leader pledged that the Samagi Janabalawegaya will work to establish law and order in the country.
Another public meeting of the Samagi Janabalawegaya in view of the impending local government elections was held in Matugama yesterday under the patronage of party leader and leader of the opposition, Sajjit Premadasa. Our society has become prey to organized criminals. The lives of the people are at risk. Gunmen walk into houses and commit murders. Guns have dominated public life today. Rifles and pistols rule the country today. Violence has engulfed in entire society. The JVP government and the president have no solutions to these issues. We pledge to establish law and order in the country. Public safety committees and civil security committees will be established through local government institutions with the assistance of the police, security forces and religious institutions. We will work towards a society and a country that abides by the law.
Now, Sarva Janabalaya leader MP Dilith Jayavira claims that the upcoming local government election is not just about winning seats, but about sending a clear message to the current government regarding the state of the country. He made this statement during a public meeting held in Mathara today.
Another meeting of the series of public meetings organised by Sarva Janabalaya for the 2025 local government elections was held in Mathara today under the patronage of the party leader, parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira.
මහනුවර නගරේ ඉන්න කරුතර ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ නමක් උන්වහන්සේ මට කිව්වා මේ දලදා වහන්සේ
A respected Buddhist monk in Kandy shared a deep concern with me. Individuals who have shown little respect for Buddhism, those who have never celebrated a Buddhist festival and have even spoken against religion are now organizing the exposition of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha for political gain. He emphasized that the people understand the blessings of the sacred tooth relic. Wait and see, he told me, how this decision will affect the government that chose to hold the exposition during an election. When such uncultured political behavior comes to an end one day, we must take responsibility to ensure it never happens again. The territorial integrity safeguarded by our veterans has already been compromised because of secret agreements made behind, and we still don't know what else lies hidden in those documents. Our challenge isn't just to win local government bodies. We must use this election to send a clear and firm message about the direction of our political trajectory.
පැහැදිලි පණිවිඩයක් මෙවර අපි පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයෙන් ලබා දිය යුතුමයි.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe claims that the threats made by the incumbent government regarding the fund allocation for local government bodies, depending on the ruling party's victory, are made due to their impending defeat. Speaking at a meeting in Kandy, the former head of state further claims that the government claims ownership of triumphs of previous governments.
A meeting of the United National Party's local government representatives of the Central Province was organised today at the Postal Auditorium in Kandy under the patronage of former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. Both rejected traditional politics. Some of them detest previous governments. I urge everyone to not speak about any former president, including myself, Maithripala Sirisena, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga and Gotabaya Rajapaksa. This election is not about us. It is regarding the president and his government who were elected 6 months ago. None of that is necessary. Within 6 months, I ended all queues for essentials. I also secured a loan from the International Monetary Fund. However, some individuals say that the National People's Power will achieve another victory. The government threatened to not allocate funds to local government institutions that the NPP fails to win. They make such remarks when defeat draws closer. If they are of the opinion that they will win, they would speak about how they intend to further strengthen the mandate vested in them. I wonder if there are funds to allocate even if they win. The government has threatened state sector workers with transfers. I am grateful that the government shared these actual thoughts before the election. I took on the responsibility of the government together with state workers. I transformed a government that was on the verge of collapse and handed it over. What has the government done during the last 6 months? They say they filed lawsuits to arrest the corrupt. Who passed the Anti-Corruption Act, which was drafted by former Minister of Justice Premadasa Rajapaksa. After I did all of that, but they claim ownership.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
ඩයිබටසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම්වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
කැලනි වයර් කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසි ගින්නක් නෑ. කැලනි ෆයර් ෂීල්ඩ් වයර්.
An individual who is suspected to have plotted the murder of activist Dan Priyasad was arrested by the police today. During investigations, the suspect has revealed that notorious underworld kingpin Kanjipani Imran orchestrated the murder and deployed the gunman.
On the 22nd of April, activist Dan Priyasad was gunned down at the Laksanda 7 housing complex in Kolonava. Immediately after the shooting, the gunman fled the scene of the crime on a motorcycle. Priyasad, who was promptly admitted to hospital, later succumbed to his injuries while receiving treatment. Law enforcement authorities investigating the murder suspect the murder to have been committed by Dan Priyasad's father-in-law and brother-in-law. The duo under suspicion are also suspected to have committed the murder of Dan Priyasad's brother in 2022. Considering the circumstances, the authorities secured an overseas travel ban against the two suspects. The two suspects are still at large, having evaded the police for more than 24 hours. Meanwhile, an individual who is suspected to have plotted the murder was arrested today through a joint operation initiated by the Western Province South Range Crimes Division and the Vallampitiya Police. The arrestee, who is also implicated in the 2022 murder of Priyasad's brother, is believed to be a close relative of the two prime suspects who allegedly committed the murder of Dan Priyasad. Upon being questioned by the police, the arrested suspect revealed that Priyasad attacked him and another individual on the 20th of April. Enraged by the incident, the suspect admitted that he contacted the famous underworld figure Kanjipani Imran through a mutual friend. Investigations revealed that Kanjipani Imran instructed the now arrested suspect to place a complaint with the Vallampitiya police. Accordingly, Kanjipani Imran and his associates intended to murder Priyasad when he reported to the police station to answer the complaint filed. However, since the deceased Priyasad refused to report to the police, the plan failed. Investigations have revealed that upon the failed attempt, Kanjipani Imran has indicated to the arrested suspect that multiple assailants will be deployed in the evening of the day of the murder to commit the fatal crime. In the aftermath of the fatal shooting, the police also recorded statements from Priyasad's sister-in-law, a resident of the house within which the crime took place. Meanwhile, Dan Priyasad's remains were placed at a private funeral parlour in Buralla today. Further investigations into the incident are being conducted by the police.
With that, here's a look at the latest political discourse on the state of national and public security in the country today.
The state of the country is deeply concerning. National security has deteriorated to such an extent that someone can scale a 7-story building and enter a residence to carry out a murder without hesitation. Within this short period of time, 38 murders have taken place. It feels as though we are living in Chicago during its most violent era. There is a complete breakdown of governance. They claim to have arrested IGP Deshabandhu, but in truth, he turned himself in. The government did not apprehend him. The government has continuously claimed that these issues do not affect national security. However, national security and public security are not separate concepts. They are one and the same. The inability to protect the public clearly indicates a serious failure in national security. We have introduced a new political culture. The country is now progressing in the right direction. It is our duty to strengthen this journey. By winning all local government institutions, we will be able to reinforce the government that we have established. International journals now list Sri Lanka as one of the best countries to live in with a family. The impact of the revolution you sparked in the 2024 presidential and general elections is still beyond full comprehension for both you and us. Its true significance will only become clear as the results unfold.
Deputy Minister of Economic Development Professor Anil Jayantha claims that Sri Lanka is expected to reach the staff-level agreement on the 4th review under the IMF program by the end of this week, noting that the ongoing discussions in Washington DC have been successful. Meanwhile, he also claims that the Sri Lankan delegation met with officials of the United States Trade Representative's Office and held productive discussions regarding US tariffs. Details of these discussions are expected to be communicated in due course.
දැන් අමතුමා කොහොමද IMF කටයුතු හතරවෙනි සමාලෝචනයේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් අවශ්‍ය මූලික සාකච්ඡා
Preliminary discussions related to the 4th review of the program are currently underway. These initial discussions are expected to conclude by the end of this week. So far, the talks have been highly successful. The meetings are currently taking place in Washington DC. Under the program, we have implemented initiatives aimed at achieving the targets agreed upon. Reciprocal tariffs imposed by the United States might lead to a change in the global economic order. This is also being taken into consideration during during our discussions. We remain hopeful that we will be able to reach a staff-level agreement for the fourth review within this week.
අපිට ළඟා වෙන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. තීරු ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ගැන සාකච්ඡා වුණා. අපි වොෂින්ටන් නුවරදී තමයි මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර
The Sri Lankan delegation visited Washington DC to discuss matters pertaining to the IMF deal. The Sri Lankan delegation also took steps to meet the head of the United States Trade Representative's office and other senior officials attached to the same office. Sri Lanka was particularly appreciated at the meeting. That is because Sri Lanka and India were the only nations in all of Asia who visited the United States to discuss the tariffs. We will reveal details on the agreements that we strike with the US in time. At the moment, I can only confirm that our discussions were constructive and productive. The current US tariffs extend beyond issues of trade and investment. They reflect broader geopolitical nuances. Using unilateral tariffs, para-tariffs or foreign exchange controls to push a trade agenda is not a sustainable approach. That is not our focus. Our priority is to assess how these measures have impacted us, specifically the fact that 25% of our exports to the US have been affected. We are actively working on a solution. While other countries have not yet started working on this, we have taken proactive steps. We are optimistic that we can move forward with the agreements we have initiated.
ඒ අනුව අදාළ එකඟතාවයන්ට අනුව ඇවිල්ලා වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Meanwhile, opposition MP Dr. Harsha De Silva also shared his thoughts on the matter. The president claimed that a joint statement on this matter will be issued. Typically, such announcements are published immediately on platforms like X. We expect the statement to be released within the day. The statement should clarify whether the 44% tariff has been reduced and indicate whether the negotiations have been successful. However, it is essential that we only agree to a tariff arrangement that is on par with the terms offered to our competitive peer countries.
Now in other news, thousands of people poured into St. Peter's Basilica today to pay their final respects to Pope Francis, whose body is lying in state for 3 days ahead of his funeral on this Saturday, the 26th of April. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan government declared April 26th a national day of mourning to coincide with the late Pope's funeral mass. Pope Francis, the first Latin American leader of the Roman Catholic Church, died at the age of 88 at his residence in the Vatican's Casa Santa Marta on Monday, the 21st of April. The remains of the late Pope Francis are currently being displayed at the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Thousands of people have queued through the night to pay their final respects to the Argentine pontiff. The funeral is expected to be held on the 26th of April at St. Peter's Square. Argentine President Javier Milei, US President Donald Trump, French President Emmanuel Macron, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the United Kingdom's Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer and Prince William are among the key world leaders slated to attend the somber event. According to the Kremlin, Russian President Vladimir Putin has no plans to attend the funeral of the late Pope. However, foreign media reports that there will be a delegation from China. A massive turnout is expected on the day of the funeral as thousands anticipate to pay their final respects to the late Pope Francis. Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, paid his respects to His Holiness Pope Francis today. In other news out of the Vatican, Cardinal Giovanni Angelo Becciu, who was ordered by Pope Francis in 2020 to resign the rights and privileges of a cardinal after he became embroiled in a Vatican financial scandal, claimed that he can take part in the forthcoming conclave despite being listed as a non-elector. The final call on his attendance in the conclave is likely to be decided by the Dean of the College of Cardinals. Meanwhile, President Andra Disanaka visited the Apostolic Nunciature to Sri Lanka to share a message of condolences over the passing of late Pope Francis. Issuing a statement, the Minister of Public Administration, Provincial Councils and Local Government informs that the government has decided to declare next Saturday, April 26th, a national holiday of mourning to coincide with the funeral of Pope Francis. Accordingly, the national flag in all government offices on that day must be at half-mast. Welcome back, and with that we take you straight to more local news across the island in brief.
Neville Silva, former director of the Colombo Crimes Division and Assistant Superintendent of Police, surrendered to Mathura Magistrate Court today over investigations related to the shooting incident that occurred in the Pelene area of Veligama, Mathura on 31st December 2023. The Mathura Magistrates Court had previously issued arrest warrants for 8 police officers, including former officers of the CCD and suspended IGP Tennakon, naming them as suspects in the case. Former CCD Director ASP Neville Silva is the 9th suspect in the case. Meanwhile, the Colombo High Court sentenced a man to death who was convicted of the brutal murder of a woman in 2015 whose body was later discovered stuffed inside a suitcase at the Bastian Mawatha bus station in Colombo. Colombo High Court Judge Aditya Patabandige delivered the verdict convicting the suspect Patrick Krishnaraja of the murder of Dharmaraja Karthika, which took place at a lodge in C Street, Colombo 11 on July 29, 2015. In other local news, the Sri Lankan police issued a directive to officers across the island to closely monitor and inspect individuals behaving suspiciously wearing protective helmets, particularly while not riding the motorcycles. This move comes in the wake of a series of serious crimes, including shootings and homicides, in which suspects have used full-face helmets to conceal their identities.
Now in your business news, the Colombo Stock Exchange, in collaboration with the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, has launched Extensible Business Reporting Language, also known as XBRL, for listed entities in Sri Lanka. The new language is universally used for business data reporting and standardized communication of financial reporting in a more accurate manner. CSE marked the beginning of this journey by signing a contract agreement with Microvista Technologies Private Limited, India, on the 9th of April 2025 to develop the system. A demonstration of the proposed system was held at the CSE premises for 30 selected listed companies representing the banking, insurance and other sectors. CSE intends to adopt a phased approach for the implementation of the new system. In Phase 1, CSE plans to convert interim financial statements into XBRL-based digital financial reporting, and in Phase 2, the system will be expanded to annual reports and the submission of sustainability reports. Now, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in positive territory as a result of price gains in the food and beverage and tobacco and insurance and capital goods sectors. The benchmark all-share price index closed 0.46% higher at 15,615.63, while the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 0.28% to close at 4,604.71. Market turnover was 1.5 billion rupees, with the highest contributions from Brown's Investments, Selinco Holdings and Haley's. The capital goods sector emerged as the top contributor to turnover, followed by the materials sector. Foreign investors closed as net buyers, offloading shares worth 81 million rupees. And now here's a look at today's exchange rates. Welcome back. Now in other local news, the Operations Committee in charge of the special exposition of the sacred tooth relic of the Lord Buddha informs devotees who are planning to visit Kandy to refrain from visiting the city until further notice, as over 400,000 devotees are currently present within the city limits. Meanwhile, the Department of Railways has also suspended the special train service arranged for the exposition until further notice.
The special exposition of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, titled Sri Dalada Vandanava, commenced on April 18th with over 125,000 devotees arriving to venerate one of the most sacred Buddhist relics in the world. As the special exposition continued for the 7th consecutive day today, it was reported that over 400,000 devotees have gathered in Kandy to pay homage to the sacred tooth relic. Accordingly, Sri Lanka Police informed the public to refrain from visiting the special exposition in Kandy today and tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Department of Railways announced the special train services arranged for the exposition will be suspended until further notice. However, the department stated that a special train service from Kandy to Colombo will be available for devotees returning home after attending the exposition. The Buddhist clergy, led by the chief prelate of Askiri chapter, Most Venerable Warkagoda Sri Jnanaratan Thera, took steps last night to provide food and water to the devotees who remained in queues overnight. Manusa Derana, the social responsibility arm of Derana Media Network, also hosted a dansal for the visiting devotees. Despite the request made by the police, a significant number of devotees were seen today at the 3 designated access routes, and they were given the opportunity to venerate firsthand the sacred tooth relic of the Buddha at 11 am. Afterwards, the army and the special task force were deployed to ease tensions and congestion that were observed among devotees. In the meantime, the operation committee in charge of the special exposition and held a media briefing informing the public to refrain from visiting the city until further notice. We had to make the decision to limit the number of visiting devotees. The decision was taken in the interest of the devotees' health and safety. By yesterday, the approximate number increased up to 400,000. Queues extended more than 10 kilometers beyond the constructed fence. We believe that the approximate amount will be exceeded. Also, we had to halt some visiting devotees, and there are 32 buses halted in the Gatabay region at the moment since there isn't sufficient space for them in the city. The city currently holds the maximum possible number of devotees for the special exposition, and as the police, we would like to request that you refrain from visiting the city. We make this request to spare you from all the discomfort you will experience by remaining in these queues. It will at least take 4 to 5 days for the devotees who are currently in queues to venerate the sacred tooth relic of Buddha. There's also a certain number of visitors the city can hold, and the current number is actually enough for the city. Even though we manage to provide food, it is much more difficult to provide necessary sanitary facilities. If more devotees arrive in Kandy, we will soon face health issues, and the public will be subjected to adverse conditions, especially in disaster situations. We kindly request the public not to visit Kandy until further notice.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.